Story by NurseKA. One evening, as I'm on my computer just browsing Facebook, I happen to get a message notification. Thinking it's one of my friends or family members, I click on the notification to open up the message, as I have my profile blocked from people that I don't know so they can't message me. It's from an elderly man who doesn't live in the same town as me. And he tells me that I'm very beautiful. I just reply with a thanks and leave it at that. I should have never even replied because he immediately replies with, "Are you single?" When clearly in my profile picture, there is my boyfriend of 3 years and I embracing, which is kinda obvious, you'd think. Anyway, I reply with a no. He replies with a shame, and I end up blocking him and going to bed. The next morning I'm opening and I'm alone. It's dark out as it's only 5 a.m. We don't open for another hour. When I hear a, "Hello, you're looking as beautiful as ever this morning." I turn around expecting one of the co-workers from the grocery store that my kiosk is placed in to be just messing around with me. But to my horror, the elderly man was there. He lives in a town that is a whole 1.5 hours away from me. The fact that he drove all that way just to see me terrified me. I went and told my manager about it and he told me to go to the back room and he would come get me when this guy was gone. It took a while, but my manager finally came out and got me. The guy, after I disappeared, ended up walking the whole store multiple times trying to find me, and even asking associates if they had seen me from Starbucks around and that he needed to talk to me. My manager quickly told the gentleman that he was worrying his employees and that it would be best if he left before he had to call the cops. Needless to say, he hasn't spoken to me, but I do occasionally see him lurking about the store. Story by ivyaliene. I decided to use a Starbucks gift card that I got for Christmas this one morning before class. I live in a college town and I wanted to go to the Starbucks closest to campus so I wasn't late for class. This one doesn't have a drive-through window, so I had to walk in. When I walked up to the front door, a man and a woman were sitting at the outdoor table and they both made eye contact with me. I remember thinking it was kind of odd because they looked me up and down. Plus, it's like 30 degrees and there were clearly open chairs inside. And come to think of it, they didn't even have drinks or anything. I walked inside and ordered my drink like normal, but I could still feel them staring at me through the front window. And once I got my drink, I started to walk out to my car, passing the two people. I heard both of them stand up and start walking behind me without saying a word, and I got really scared and put my car keys in between my knuckles, just in case that I needed to protect myself. I sped up and got into my car as fast as I could and then locked all of the doors. And not even 2 seconds later, the woman knocked aggressively on my driver's side window, essentially making me damn near piss myself. The man was right next to her with a straight face, hands in his pocket, looking through the windows of my car as if he was searching for something he wanted. I cracked the window like a centimeter so she couldn't fit her hand in or anything, and asked her if she needed anything. And she told me to roll the window down more. I just said it was really cold, so I'm going to keep it up. She then asked me if I could give them some money, and she seemed like she was insisting, not so much asking. I just stumbled over my words and told her that I paid with a gift card and that I'm just a poor college kid who didn't have cash, which was true, but it sounded like an excuse. The man started to look confused and angry at me, and he yelled at me to get out of the car. That's when I just noped the fuck out and drove away as fast as I could. I'm glad I got out of there, but they scared the crap out of me. I probably shouldn't have even talked to them at all. So, to the two people who I think tried to rob me at Starbucks, let's not meet again. Story by you/Savvy Noel. About a month ago, I took an Uber to Starbucks to wait for my now ex-boyfriend, as he can't pick me up at home for other reasons. Anyways, so I'm in Starbucks sitting at a table waiting for my drink. I have a strong resting bitch face, especially when I'm in public alone, and I'm only 5 foot tall and 100 pounds, so I'm tiny. I try to have it as strong as possible to keep creeps away. But this day, it didn't work, unfortunately. My now ex-boyfriend was at MEPS for the Navy, so I was having our friend pick me up. I am sitting there waiting, and this creepy guy comes up out of nowhere and introduced himself. I immediately tensed up as he sat down across the table from me. He tells me he didn't want to be weird because he kept looking at me. So he decided to talk to me and said that I seemed cool. He proceeds to ask if I'm in school because I had a backpack on, and I tell him no. He asks me if I work, and I say not at the moment. I try to be as short with him as possible while giving whoever I can the help me kind of look. He asked me if I'm local and if I drive, and I simply responded Uber. He asked me if I had a boyfriend, and I lied and said yes, I'm actually engaged and my fiancé is in the Navy. He looks down at my left hand, which thankfully I have a promise ring on. He tells me that he has military friends, and I didn't respond. I never made eye contact with him, but made mental notes of everything about him. He was average height and weight with a narrow jaw and horrible brown teeth. He tells me he's a writer and is working on a book. He also offers me a ride, but I tell him no thanks and that I have someone coming to get me. He finally ends up leaving me alone after playing 20 questions. I get my drink and go outside to where I didn't think he could see me. I'm texting my friends, trying to have one call me. And the next thing I know, he comes up again and sits down across the table. He offers me a job, typing for him, and that he'd pay me $20 an hour cash. I decline, and he keeps going about how we can meet up so he can pay me and he can give me rides whenever I need. He also tells me how he's a photographer and web designer. I tell him I can't accept because my fiancé wouldn't be okay with it, and he's at work so I can't talk to him about it yet. He offers to leave me his number so my fiancé can call him himself, and I told him that he would not be okay with it. He asks if he's strict, and I say no, that he's protective. He then says that I can give him my number instead, but I say that my fiancé would definitely not be okay with that. He tells me that he's not trying to break up my relationship, but he's just trying to help me out, and tells me how he has married couple friends. He finally leaves me alone after repeatedly saying that he wasn't trying to be weird, and I quickly leave and go somewhere else and hide in case he follows me. I never went back to that Starbucks again. I thought that would be the only time that I'd deal with his creepy ass, but I was wrong. He may not seem too creepy to some, but he had a very, very creepy vibe to him. So, this last Friday, I went to Target to wait for my now ex-boyfriend. The Target is in the same shopping center as the Starbucks, but I hadn't seen him, so I felt safe. I got bored, so I decided to sit outside. Well, that was my mistake, and that I should have stayed inside. So I'm sitting on a bench in front of a store and I see someone out of the corner of my eye walking in front of me from my left side. I glance up and realize it's him. I immediately panic and text my friend so he can call me. I wanted to go back in the store, but he went in that direction. He stopped by the doors and just stood there for a good 5 or more minutes looking around before going in. I'm telling my friend to hurry and call me, but he's in the middle of something and says that he will call in like 2 minutes. As I am waiting, I see him coming back towards me. He spent like 2 minutes in the store. He walks past me and then comes back and comes up to me, and I get very nervous and scared. He makes up some excuse to talk to me. He says hello and I say hi with as much attitude as I can and without looking up from my phone. He asks if he can ask me something. So again, with an attitude, I say, "What?" He quickly responds with, I'm new here and I'm looking for, never mind, sorry." And then walks away. Thankfully, at that point, my friend calls and we were on the phone for a good 45 minutes to an hour, and the dude disappeared completely. I mentioned to my friend that if he's around when my now ex-boyfriend gets to me, that he would handle it, and my now ex-boyfriend just got into the Navy, so he wouldn't put hands on the creep. But he's taller and is sorta muscular, so he'd scare the shit out of him. My friend ends up having to go, and as soon as we hang up, literally, in the same second the creep walks by again. He was waiting out of sight where he could hear me. It was 3:26 p.m., and my now ex-boyfriend got off work at 3:30. So I texted him and I told him the creep was around me, and I told him that I was going to call at 3:30 and to please answer. He hadn't seen my messages, but he answered, so I told him what happened and had him stay on the phone with me until he got to me, because I was really scared. The creepy guy walks back out of the store again only after 2 minutes inside. He goes and stands out of sight again, and I loudly say the word babe multiple times, knowing that he's listening. Next thing I know, he's walking away back to the Starbucks. My now ex-boyfriend gets to me. I was going to verbally beat the shit out of him. And of course, the coward is nowhere to be found. Needless to say, I am never going to that area alone. I saw him again a few months later, and he even followed my mom and I around Target with a hat on covering his face. But when I noticed him, he gave me the creepiest, evilest smirk and then walked away. I haven't seen him since, and it's been a few years now. So, Starbucks stalker, let's not meet ever again, or I can guarantee that you'll regret it. Story by u/Silver and Cat. When I was a young chick, I worked for Starbucks for a while. Our store was in the shittiest part of town in a retail park. The area consisted of council flats, where the local council placed druggies, ex-cons, and people on various benefits. So, although we had some nice customers who were there for a shopping spree, there were quite a few shady people too. This guy came in and acted like a regular, asking every girl about how we are and etc. We had name tags. He was nice and chatty and made my skin crawl. The other girls loved him, and the guy started to come daily. He usually came around 1 p.m. and stayed until closing at around 11 p.m. And sometimes, he was very pushy about staying even after closing. He always insisted on helping bringing in the outside furniture and stuff. Some managers and I were cautious, especially since we couldn't have anyone in the store after closing. He then started to pretty much groom the girls, asking about if we were single, our first boyfriends, favorite sex positions, and etc. Mind you, I grew up with narcissistic parents, so I learned how to read people at a very early age. Also, I've always been interested in psychology, and I did study it for a few years. This guy irked me from day one, but I was nice to him because I'm very passionate about not starving to death, so I needed the job. One day, he started to tell me that he had a fight with his parents and that they threw him out. He looked very sad and told me that he now needs to sleep in his van. However, since he knows that I'm closing that day, he'd love to take me home with his car because it's not the nicest neighborhood. I almost laughed. This was such a textbook way to abduct young women. He was doing everything just as my lecture said a serial killer or rapist would do. Sadly for him, I am not a normal girl. Thanks to my rather cruel upbringing, I scored extremely high on the psychopathy test. I just had to tell him once without my fake smile for him to notice that I am not prey. He moved on to the other girls and I notified the manager about his creepy behavior in order to protect our young girlies. One of them was a sweet, innocent, and a bit naive girl, and the creepy guy targeted her next after my shift leader also laughed in his face. He told this young girl his sob story and expected empathy, which he got, and she agreed to be taken home by him, and she even offered him a couch to sleep on. Luckily, my manager was a mama hen type of a woman, and she firmly told our young barista to be more careful around strangers and that she will be going home with her. Also, creepy guy was banned from the store. The manager notified the security around the park. I'm afraid I don't have a happy ending to this story. All I know that the police was later involved somehow, and he disappeared from the area. So, creepy Starbucks guy who's after young innocent girls, let's not meet again. Starbucks is my favorite place to get coffee. Part of my morning ritual is to go there, get my coffee, and then go about my day. Like most of the population, I'm addicted to coffee. I'm not the friendliest person to talk to in the morning, and I can be standoffish. When my name was called out, and naturally it was spelled incorrectly, I had to squeeze past several men to get there. I tried doing the polite, "Excuse me," while I tried to move past, and one of the men didn't move. I gestured with my hand that I needed to make my way through. He moved, but just enough for me to get by and for me to rub against him. I cringed as I did so. He leaned in close, sniffed my hair, and made a creepy purr sound in my ear. I was completely repulsed by it. I grabbed my drink and made my way out as quickly as possible. I sipped it and smiled at the flavor when I heard a creepy voice in my ear. "I have something else you can taste." It was the same creeper from before. His breath smelled disgusting and I pulled away from him. It was crowded and I don't think anyone heard what he said above the noise of the cafe. I stared at him in disgust. He leaned forward and winked at me. I pushed past him and made it out of Starbucks. I was angry at this point. But I didn't want one idiot to ruin my day. It was when I noticed that he was following me, and at first I didn't worry about it too much. It was a busy street, and he could have been heading to wherever he had been heading. But about 5 minutes in, I wanted to do a test and see if I was being paranoid about it. I turned into a street in the opposite direction of my school. The only other buildings was a small corner store and a beautician. Two places that I didn't think he would go to. But he kept following me. I was starting to get so worried now. I wanted to run away screaming, but instead, I went into the beautician's and pretended like I was looking at the prices. He was waiting outside, and I leaned forward and whispered to one of the women that he was following me and that I was worried. At first, I don't think she believed me since he hadn't done anything yet. And I waited there for 10 minutes, and he was still waiting outside for me. She went outside and asked what the problem was. He didn't answer, and then walked away. After I saw he left, I hurried to get to school and kept looking behind me to see if he was there, and he wasn't. Every time I've gone to Starbucks, he hasn't been there, that I don't run into him again. Hello everyone, it's your creepy sister here. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate each and every one of you. But I would also like to thank my amazing patrons, my top tippers, and my dearest channel members. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it with all of my heart. If you want to support the channel further, you could also choose to become a patron, a tipper, or a channel member. But remember, it's appreciated, but never a requirement. I would also like to announce that we have merch now. The link is in the description of the video, along with all my other social media links, like my Discord server, Twitter, Instagram, and others. You can connect with me and send your stories there. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and comments are highly appreciated. And remember, your fear feeds me.